Blackthorn dead and the NCR in complete disarray, much of the exiles disbanded. However, there were those who stayed behind. There were some who saw it as an opportunity to begin life as a vigilante peacekeeper, whilst others took the dark path and became the very thing they vowed to destroy. Whilst the airport was overrun by scavengers, they did not take up arms against the NCR civilians. Soon after, what remained of Goose Hollow became a town run by the scabs. It prospered, but would, on one fateful day, burn to the ground as Junkfleet's mayor sought to erase all traces of the exiles. Ashley Jane Tara, the only surviving member of the Wolf Pack, saw herself once again following the pack as she joined the courier on his march through the frontier. Though she wished for stillness, she found little comfort in the idle tidings of civilian life. After the courier returned to the Mojave, she found herself at a loss. She turned to peacekeeping efforts in a desperate attempt to keep herself above board. After the collapse of the exiles, Gray took it upon himself to try and rebuild. He took those still loyal to Blackthorn and formed a new splinter cell of the exiles. His efforts led to little success, as with no serious threats and no mission, the commanding officers became restless and wasted limited resources on gambling and other obscenities. Gray left the exiles in response. He burned his uniform and traveled to Junkfleet, where he spent the rest of his days trading and drinking. With Valerius dead and Ostia destroyed, the Northern Legion quickly disbanded. Most simply integrated into the native scab population, or used their fighting skill to form raider gangs. A choice few returned to the Legion fort, where Caesar had them put to the cross for their failure. As the war subsided, Junkfleet began to prosper. No longer relying on selling information on factions, they were able to begin more legal operations. Utilizing Junkfleet's water reservoirs and ample space, large swaths of the underground were turned into hydroponic areas. Though the courier would never meet the mayor would eventually become a very powerful figure, albeit from the shadows. As the threat of the war passed, the mayor could no longer tolerate the slum's lawlessness. The guards moved through the slums like fire, arresting or executing the worst of the criminals. The slums would still be considered dangerous, but they would never again be as toxic as they once were. With no guardian to protect them, the Church of Eternal Life was quickly wiped out by violent outsiders in search of their treasure. Irvington continued to prosper, even as more and more people began to grow sick. After years of suffering and dozens dead, Dr. Pavus finally created a cure for the disease. With the plague ended, Irvington would grow to rival Junkfleet in size and influence, becoming a beacon of civilization in Portland. With the salt mine gone, thanks to the courier, Salt Town quickly died off. Worries that a salt shortage would ensue disappeared, as new veins and mines were discovered. These mines were run by those who had suffered in Salt Town, and so the workers were treated with respect and dignity. The frontier became known as a haven for miners, with even workers from Quarry Junction making the journey up north. The Trocali were unable to restore power to their generator, and were doomed to die a slow death within their bunker. A few brave scouts attempted to find a new home, but they never returned, and the Trocali quickly went extinct. Though Dr. Hurt understood that the courier only did as the last Pathfinder had asked, he still felt as though he had failed his old friend. Dr. Hurt would leave the frontier and connect with a Followers chapter. There he used his medical knowledge to prevent an outbreak of syphilis. Though he was hailed as a hero, this did little to assuage Hurt's conscience. Though Joseph was sad to see his former friends fail, he knew the courier made the right decision in granting the scabs independence. However, with this independence came the revival of the slave trade. Undeterred, the hanged man redoubled his efforts. So long as he lived, no man or woman would be in chains. With the NCR's victory in the frontier, Jolene slipped quietly back into the ranks of the NCR Espionage Division, assisting in the cleanup. America's internal doubt continued to push her away from everyone. Unable to resolve it, she grew distant. She didn't belong with the Crusaders. Maybe she didn't belong anywhere. She decided on her next scouting mission to disappear. No one would miss her. Though he would never truly forgive himself for Sarah's death, Lot was soon able to face the bright light ahead. Through his time with the courier, he had come to terms with the death of his only family and slipped peacefully into the darkness. And so it came to an end, the courier's magnum opus, a final adventure to the unknown. The road to Hoover Dam now lay before the courier, an empty slate to be carved. Because war never changes.